Good morning. My name is Vincent Brown. I'm doing my speech on female genital mutilation. These are my two audience members. Matt and female genital mutilation. The World Health Organization defines female genital mutilation as any procedure that causes harm or injury to a female's genitalia intentionally. When you think of female genital mutilation, just the name itself usually sends chills up people's spine, and people generally get an idea in their head or a picture of what it may entail, and sadly enough, that's probably actually very accurate. I searched for it on Google, and I found a YouTube video that I will post at the bottom in the description of this video on two women that actually give their personal dealings with the female genital mutilation. One is a young woman who is 30 years old, and she will talk in the video about how it happened to her, it happened to her mother's mother, and she gives a recount of what the process that they did, what the procedure was, and the fact that because of the procedure she is now infertile. She can't have any children. The other female that on the video will tell you about her personal experience and how she was lured into believing that this was like going on a vacation and it was a reward. Like once you get the procedure done, everybody does it. Once you get it done, you get to go on a trip, on a vacation. So she got it done. At the beginning, it's very, very, very hard to listen to. You hear a little girl and she's screaming bloody murder, and it's translated because she's speaking a foreign language, and what is translated as she's saying, "I'm dying. Don't inject me again. Just cut it. Cut it. Cut it." And she's telling her mother to just cut it because this is a procedure that is done without anesthesia. It's done usually in a living room of a house, and it's not usually performed by a medical surgeon. It's just someone who is classified as a cutter is actually what they're called. The young woman who talks in the video that's 30 years old, she talks about how it is a procedure that they basically tell these girls that this is a part of their culture, this is a part of their religion, and that they cut everything from them. And she described it as they cut your being, you become a hollow shell. There are facts out there that say that there are 140 million women that have gone through this procedure worldwide, and 101 million are centralized in the African continent. When you talk about female genital mutilation, there's 4 different procedures that could happen. And I'm going to read these because I want to make sure I get this correct. The first one is a clitoridectomy, and basically that is the removal of the partial or full removal of a woman's clitoris. The next possible procedure is an excision. In this procedure, a woman's clitoris is removed, and also the labia minora is removed, which is classified as the outer lips of the female vagina. The other procedure is infibulation, and it's a narrow vaginal opening. And the last procedure it says they just classify as other, and it's anything like pricking, scraping, scratching, anything that causes harm to the female vagina. They describe the procedure. Basically what happens in the procedure is a young girl is taken into a room where there's other women present. They hold her down, and they don't, as I said, they don't use anesthesia, and they sever her clitoris, and then they sew her up until there's like a dime-sized hole in her vagina. And the only reason they leave a dime-sized hole is because they want to make sure that urine and blood during the menstrual cycle can come out of that hole. The purpose of it is actually, they say, because it keeps young women pure, is what they try to say, that if they don't have their clitoris, they don't have sexual urges prior to marriage. Because they actually go further to tell you that right before the young woman she gets married, and before she performs her first sexual act as a married woman, or before she gives birth to a child, they literally go and cut her back open to the regular opening of her vagina, and they literally will do this before each one of those procedures. They said there's a lot of different things that can happen. There's a lot of issues. One main issue is because they've cut the woman and they've sewn her up, they don't know that she's internally bleeding or that anything happens like that. And because a lot of the blood and all the the pus and things like that can't get out of their system, they end up getting a lot of infections. A lot of them become infertile, and majority of them die. So the ones that actually live to tell their story are actually very, very lucky. They try to say that this was a Middle Eastern procedure, but it's funny that they say that because Saudi Arabia, which is the basically the Mecca or the central point of all Middle Eastern culture, they actually ban this. They don't allow this. So it's not a Muslim or Middle Eastern thing, as which they try to say. It actually started in Africa, and they said that it's not a religious thing. Someone somewhere along the way found out about this and turned it into a cultural thing, and it's just passed on from generation to generation to generation. And it's actually now it has spread to Europe. Now they're starting to do things now where they're actually having what's called circumcision parties. And mothers are taking groups of 15 to 20 girls, and they have a party. They bring a cutter from over in Africa or in the Middle East, where in the areas that do take part in this procedure, they fly them over because it's cheaper to fly them over to do a party than it is to fly individual families over, because it's illegal and it's supposed to be hidden. They fly them over and they go through a process where all 15 to 20 of these girls have their clitoris severed, and they're bandaged up and sewn up and all that good stuff. And this is just what they do. And surprisingly, it's as more countries become more modernized, instead of this being a procedure that is diminishing, it's actually becoming more rampant. It's actually running rampant now, and they're trying to fight to stop it. Hasina Lockett, a child clinical psychologist, gave a quote in reference to the idea that this was an Islamic or Middle Eastern practice. And she's the one who basically said, when one considers that the practice does not prevail and is much condemned in countries like Saudi Arabia, the center of the Islamic world, it becomes clear that the notion that it is an Islamic practice is a false one. She goes into talking about the fact that the reason why it's very hard, it's very difficult to find out how many countries participate in this, because unlike Western culture, where it's you could Google sex and get all kinds of links to, Kama Sutra and positions and all the things you could find in, pornographic material. In the Middle Eastern countries, it's forbidden to talk about that kind of stuff. So this is a secret procedure that most people don't know about, but you don't know about it unless you're someone that's had it done. And most of the women that have had it done won't even tell another person that they've had it done. Back in 1997, great efforts had been made by the World Health Organization to spread the word about this happening. That's when it first was brought into our world, and we kind of realized what was going on, and it became, a national issue. And since then, it's been brought again. In 2008, the World Health Organization, together with 9 other United Nations organizations, got together to try again to battle this. They've been trying to battle this for years. It's every year. It's just something new, something new. And they're finding the hardest part about it is the fact that, it's a secret procedure. It's a secret thing. And it's hard to tell who's affected by it because you don't know where it's taking place. But they did say that there was a woman not too long ago that actually flew from Africa over to Europe to try to do one of those circumcision parties, and she was caught in the airport and sentenced to 8 years in prison. So there are people that are being caught because of this, but as I said, it's very, very difficult to tell who is taking part in this. My purpose for doing this, my speech on this topic, obviously I'm not a woman, obviously I would never experience this, but I think it's an epidemic. It's something that needs to be put out there that more people don't know about, because I was actually shocked when I mentioned it to some people that they had no idea what it was or had never heard of it. And I've actually heard about this for years, and it's actually something that I have looked into prior to. So I just think that the first big step in overcoming this epidemic is to get the knowledge out there that it does exist. It is happening to young girls, and the ages range from infants to 15 years old. So these are girls that are born, and this is one of the procedures that's done on them as soon as they're born. So, at that age, children don't have immune systems to fight off infections, and these are young girls that are dying in the name of a so-called quote-unquote religious practice that is really not even a religious practice at all. It's just, it's basically just another form of the male-dominated society taking away the rights of a woman, persecuting women, and making them to appear to be an inferior sex. Hopefully, by watching this speech, you've got a little insight on this procedure and this epidemic, and it'll cause you to spread the word. And I encourage you to click the link below to actually watch the video where these two women talk about their own personal experiences. Thank you very much.